Messy family, welcome back to the channel. In today's segment, we got a story time coming from a TikTok creator named Jasmine. And in this story time, she's about to pretty much detail how she met a habitual liar. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Messy family, this is the type of story time you're gonna have to watch throughout. You can't skip, because over time, throughout the story time, it gets crazier. And I don't wanna ruin it for you guys, so just know it's the craziest story we probably ever shared. Stay tuned and make sure you guys watch to the end.
Let me tell you about the time that I dated a habitual liar, and one of his lies drastically changed my life. So I met this man back in like 2014, and I think I was like 21 at the time, 20 or 21, somewhere around that range. And we met on social media. I think it was either Snapchat or Instagram, if I can remember correctly. I do know for sure we didn't meet like through mutual friends or anything. I'm pretty sure it was on social media. Now, at this time, I was a sophomore in college, and I worked full-time, and I was doing school full-time, and he worked for the airport as like a baggage handler or something like that. So we dated very casually, but we did not have a lot of time. And we also were clear that this was nothing serious. Like, it was just something to do when it was nothing to do, right? Like, you're young. We weren't thinking about falling in love or having a family or any of that shit. Like, we were legitimately just something to do when it was nothing to do. Now, because our time was so limited, because I worked full-time, had school full-time, and he worked midnights at the airport, we didn't really get an opportunity to see each other. And because of this, we ultimately just fell off and stopped talking to one another. So we didn't fall out for any bad reason or anything like that. We just stopped talking. So fast forward to 2017, and at this point, I've graduated college the same year. 2017 was just an amazing year for me. It was like a yes year. Like, I had graduated from college, I was traveling, I had landed a big girl job. Like, I was just legitimately living life in 2017. So I'm at the bar with a couple of my friends, and I run into him. And, you know, because we did not end our relationship on a bad note, it was kind of like just a run-in with an old friend. And so he basically was like, hey, you know, let me take you out to dinner, blase splill. So we start hanging out together, and this is at the very beginning of the summer. So I want to say it probably was like in May or early June. So very beginning of the summertime, and I was really uninterested in having a relationship. Like, I was really enjoying my life. I had a solid roster of niggas. I was traveling. I had some money. I had moved back home, so I didn't have no bills. So I was just legit just paying my little car note and doing whatever I wanted to do. So I was not thinking about having a future with anybody or doing anything of that nature with anyone. Now, he too also seemed to be on the same page as me, as like this was just something to do and it was nothing to do and we were having fun. But one of the things that, looking back now, I realized was a red flag, but I didn't see that at the time, was that he would go missing for a long time. Like, we would be texting or talking or whatever on like Monday, and then I wouldn't hear from him again until like Saturday or Sunday. And I didn't think about it back then as being a red flag, because again, I got my own roster of niggas that I'm talking to. So it was like, you fall off, I'm texting somebody else, or I'm going out with somebody else. So I wasn't really in the mindset of like, where's this nigga going? Like, what is this nigga doing? At that point in time, I didn't really care. Now, he also was a type of nigga that was very generous. Like, he would buy me things all the time. I never paid for anything. I never drove. Like, he was truly like, whatever you want, you can have. And I was doing a lot of traveling, like with my friend group. We had went to Vegas. We were going to like Atlanta. We was just all over the place, like doing any and everything. And he would send me money on my trips. He wouldn't go with me, but he would send me money on my trips. So he was definitely a nigga that I gave a lot of passes to, because it was like, and you're a benefit, like, and I can get shit out of you. Fuck yeah, like, cool. I don't care that you gone for a week. I'll talk to this nigga over here while you do that. So things are well. This system for us is working out well, and the summer is, you know, growing over time. Like, we're being seen out in the city together. You know, we're on each other's Instagrams and whatever, Snapchats and that type of thing. Like, there was no TikTok, so we wasn't on that. But, you know, we was just having a good time. It was genuinely a really good vibe, but we were not in the serious state yet. Now, one thing I need y'all to note is that I lived at home at this time. Okay, so I would go to his house, and he had a raggedy ass house. The first time I ever went over there, I thought it was a bando. Okay, because it had like overgrown bushes. The grass wasn't cut. When I came in, it was like holes in the walls and shit. The only thing that was like in the living room and dining room areas was like work stuff. So it was like, painter's brushes and drywall and stuff like that. So I could tell that it was being worked on. The house was being worked on. So what he told me was that him and his roommate had bought this house as an investment property, and they were going to fix it up. Okay, so y'all need to remember that and come back for part 2 because it's getting long. Part 2 of how I dated a habitual liar and it changed my life drastically. So summer is continuing on, and we are growing increasingly closer. Not enough to where we're exclusive, but we are spending a little bit more time together. And this is kind of where I start to notice that like he falls off. Like now that we've been spending a lot more time together, I'm starting to notice that like he'll text me on Tuesday, or I'll see him Tuesday, but I don't see him or talk to him again until like Sunday. Which obviously if we're like, really chatting it up, you would think that we would talk more frequently. So I start to notice this, but I don't necessarily question it because we're not a couple. So summer comes to a conclusion, and it's now like September, it's early fall, and me and my friends go out of the country. So we went to Cancun, and while we were in Cancun, I'm texting and talking with him and stuff like that, and he starts talking about us becoming exclusive and us really being in a relationship. And at that point in time, I was still kind of like, that's not really what I want to do right now. Like, I'm still having fun. So I tell him, I said, you know what, I would like to be a little bit more serious and more intentional, but I'm still not ready to be like your girlfriend. Now, he took this fairly well. Like, it wasn't a big deal. He was just kind of like, okay. So this is like in September that I'm on this trip. My birthday is in October. It's at the like mid-October. It's October 19th. So my birthday comes around, and I'm a Libra. If you know anything about us Libras, we get into these states of what I call Libra love, where we think we just so in love with somebody, and in the reality of it, we're not. We just like the idea of being in love. So my birthday rolls around, and he was like kind of incognito for my birthday. Like, he was present, but he wasn't present. Like, on the day of my birthday, I didn't see him, but I also had plans with my friends, so that was part of the reason I didn't see him. But then a few days later, you would have thought that he would have been like, hey, let's go to dinner or something like that. But it just took a little bit longer than I would have expected, especially after he's talking about being more serious with me. This is also something that's important to note, that my birthday is in October. Okay. So, eventually we get together, we go to celebrate my birthday, and of course I spend the night with him, and he had got a room downtown at the casino. So we went out to dinner and stuff like that. He had got us a room at the casino. We stayed at the casino, and when I woke up the next morning, there were gifts for me. So he had bought me like a Pandora bracelet. There were some earrings, just a few little things. They weren't things that I specifically asked for, but it was gifts. So I was very appreciative. Now, we're getting into the holiday months, and I feel like I was starting to get like, okay, I can settle down. This was cute. He did my birthday a little cutesy. He got me, a few different things that were thought out or whatever. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should start kind of getting a little bit more serious about him. And so at this point, I told him, like, I'm still not ready to quite be your girlfriend, but, let's spend the holidays together. Like, I could come to your family's Thanksgiving, you could come to mine, and we kind of see how that vibe looks and then go from there. Now, he agrees to this, and he's like, okay, cool. And sure enough, Thanksgiving rolls around, and we're texting back and forth, and I'm like, hey, do you want to meet me at my house? We can ride to my auntie's house together or whatever. And he was like, no, I'll come to where you are. Like, I'm still helping my mom or whatever set up for Thanksgiving. This should have been a red flag, but again, I'm young, I'm in Libra love, and I'm being naive. I also have this other side of me that I really don't care, because I do still have a roster of niggas that I'm talking to. So I'm also in the same vein of like, whatever, like I care a little bit, but whatever at the same time. So we texting back and forth throughout the night, and it starts to get late and he does not come. And so I just kind of got like, I wouldn't say I got frustrated with it, but I was just like, fuck it, whatever. You could have just said that you didn't want to come. It wasn't that serious. So then he texts me and he's like, he goes ghost. So we weren't like texting throughout the night. He just like was like, I'm helping my mom with something. And then I just didn't talk to him for the rest of the evening. So it gets late. It's probably about like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And he texts me. He's like, hey, do you want to come over? Like, I'm sorry. Things just got crazy at my mom's and I wasn't able to make it to your family's house. And I hate to do this, but I have to make a part 3 because otherwise it takes my videos a long time to upload. So meet me at part 3. Part 3 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So last we left off, it was Thanksgiving. He texts me, it's late night, and he wants me to come over. I tell him no because I'm now thoroughly pissed off with him, and I'm at the point where I'm like, nigga, fuck you. Especially because I still have my roster on the side. So it's kind of like, fuck you. So a few days roll by and he texts me and he's like, sends me this long text profusely apologizing. And he's like, hey, I'm going to stay down at the casino for the weekend. Come downtown with me. Let's just, kiss, make up, blah, blah, blah. Y'all, I am 23 years old. So some of these decisions that I make throughout this story are very dumb, and I should have noticed the red flags, but my frontal lobe was not closed. So y'all gonna have to forgive me. So anyway, I agree to this and I go and I spend the weekend with him downtown. Now, something that should have been a clear red flag to me was how many credits he was getting, how many comps he was getting from the casino. Because my grandma loved her some casino, and the only way that you get casino comps is if you are playing and you are gambling massive amounts of money, okay? This was a red flag that I should have caught on to, but I don't know. I was just very naive. So anyway, we have this weekend down at the casino. We have a good time or whatever. And Christmas is now slowly approaching us. And as we're getting closer to Christmas, he's like, what do you want for Christmas? Make me a Christmas list, blah, 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 blah. The casino thing is also a red flag because I can account for the times that he must have had big wins at the casino, because that's when he was like cashing shit out. Like around my birthday, he had a big win because he bought a ton of stuff, right? For my birthday. When I was in Cancun, he must have won a lot of money then too, because he had sent me like a large amount of money while I was in Cancun, like, oh, go shopping. These were things that I should have been like picking up on. So Christmas starts rolling around. He's asking for my Christmas list and stuff like that. And again, we are still not official, but we are in a capacity of like, we are kind of moving like we're official. Like, I still have my little roster, but I'm not maintaining it like the way that I would have if I was like truly single. And we're spending a lot more time together because it almost, now that I look back on it, it feels like he was like trying to make up for the fact that like Thanksgiving was pissed me off. So now we're leading into Christmas time, and it felt like he was trying to make up for that. Now, Christmas is very close. So this is probably like a week, or it must have been maybe a week or two before Christmas. And he kind of starts going ghost again. Like, I'm calling him or whatever. We've been consistently, like, since the Thanksgiving incident, we've been talking to each other nonstop every day, And then a few weeks prior to Christmas, so maybe like a week or two, I can't really remember that far back, but I do remember he started going ghost again, like he was doing back in the summertime. Now, at this point, I start questioning it because you already done fucked up at the Thanksgiving thing. So what are we doing here? So I'm like, what's up with you? Like, where have you been? Why are you like MIA? And so he was like, I'm just working a lot. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, my bad. Like, I've just got a lot going on with work, blase split. So I just say, okay, whatever, and I brush it off. Now, because it's a couple weeks before Christmas, I'm getting ready to go visit my parents out of state. And I'm like all over the place. I'm packing, I'm doing things or whatever. And for some reason, I just started to like feel funny. Like, I don't know, it was something in my spirit that just felt like something was off. Now, a sidebar to this story, my cousin, who is also my best friend, we are 4 days apart from each other. And at this time, she's pregnant. So she's got to be like maybe 4 or 5 months pregnant at this point in time, right? And so I'm on the phone with her and I'm telling her like, something in my spirit just don't feel right. Like, I physically just don't feel right. Like, something is going on. So my cousin is like, bitch, I think you're pregnant. And I'm just like, girl, no. And she like, that sounds like some symptoms of being pregnant, because I'm telling her like, I physically don't feel right. This is what's wrong with me. So she like, I think you need to take a pregnancy test. Come back for part 4, I think.
It just sounds suspicious that he goes ghost for moments in time. I wonder if he has like a girlfriend in college or something, especially during the holidays too.
You have to be mindful of people who constantly try to shower you with gifts and stuff. I feel like they do that as a distraction to keep you off their back, to keep you not like, trying to figure out what they doing.
No, exactly. And they weren't even together during this time that he's spending all this money on her.
Dang.
So that's even.
So I mean, he just tricking. He just making sure that she don't go nowhere at this point, probably. But what do you guys think, Messy Family? What is your take on this so far?
Okay, part 4 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So we're at the part where my cousin thinks that I'm pregnant and she's convincing me to take a pregnancy test. So I said, fuck it, I'm just going to take a test. Like, I don't think that I'm pregnant. Like, I think I'm just overly stressed out because I got a lot going on. I'm getting ready to go to visit my parents out of town and I'm going to be gone for a week. Like, my job was kind of stressful. So I was just like, whatever. So I go ahead, I take the pregnancy test, and lo and behold, I'm pregnant, okay? And I start freaking out a little bit because I'm 23. I've never had a pregnancy scare before. I've never been pregnant before at this point in my life. So I really don't know what to do. I'm also in a state where I'm kind of like, I could go either way. If I decide that I don't want to follow through with this pregnancy, like, I'm just purely doing it out of selfishness, basically, because I don't feel like doing it, and not because I have any like legitimate reason why I don't want to do this. Meaning, like, I had the financial resources, I had the support system. I would just purely be making that decision based off of my own self. So I call him and I let him know that I'm pregnant, okay? And his initial response to me being pregnant was my same response to me being pregnant, was like, no. Like, he was just like, I don't want to have a kid right now. Like, we're both kid free. So he's like, I don't really want to have a kid right now. Like, this is a lot to digest. Like, I just really don't know. I'm not ready to be somebody's dad. And I'm also on this same tip too. In my head, I'm also like, shit, I don't really want to be nobody mama right now neither. Like, I'm living my life. Like, this was my yes year because it's still 2017. I'm like, I'm having my way. Like, I don't really need this right now. So after we have this conversation, I just went ahead and made me an appointment because I was just in the mindset of like, I just can't do this right now. He don't want to do this shit. I really don't want to do this shit. Like, fuck it. We just not gonna do it. Like, that's always an option. And when I made the appointment, they had like where you had to wait a certain amount of days after you made the appointment before they would do the procedure. So I think it may have been like maybe 2 or 3 days in between time because I also had something at work going on. So I had to push it back an additional day because I had to be present for what I had going on at work. So it probably was like we had this conversation the next day I made the appointment, and it was probably gonna be like another 2 to 3 days before I have this appointment. So in the meantime, I go to my granny's house and I go see my aunties. Now, my aunties are two complete opposites, okay? But they're the best in the world. So one of my aunties is more like soft and sweet and like just a bowl of sugar, okay? My other auntie, she is also very sweet and also a bowl of sugar, but she is the one who gonna shoot it to you straight. She not gonna sugarcoat no shit, and she gonna give it to you straight, okay? She is a whiskey neat, point blank period. So I go into her room and I'm very close with my aunties. So I go down in my auntie's room and she just automatically was like, what's wrong? Like, she already knew that something was bothering me because of how close we are. So she just was like, what's the matter? So I go in and I tell her, you know, what's going on. Like, hey, I'm pregnant. I made this appointment. I don't really know what to do, like, because I'm having this appointment out of pure selfishness, to be quite honest. But I don't know if I'm making the right decision for myself or not, right? And my auntie, because she is who she is, she gave it to me real straight. She said, you could go to this appointment and it's going to be difficult and everything's going to be fine and life is going to continue on and you're going to be great and things are going to be great, right? She said, or you have option two. You can have this baby and that man could either be a part of the baby's life or not. And either way it goes, you're going to be great. Life is going to continue. Everything is going to be great. She was like, you have the support system. You have the finances. Like, you can do this, whatever choice you choose to make. We support you and you'll be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. So after I have this conversation with her, I decide, you know what? I'm going to move forward and I am going to have this baby. Meet me at the next part. Baby, y'all is on me, okay? But this is part 5 of how I dated a habitual liar and it extremely altered my life. So at this point, you know, I've made the conclusion that I want to have the baby. So obviously I need to talk this through with him and get his feedback. So I sit down with him and I basically told him, like, you have 2 options. Either option A, you could be in the baby's life, be present and be active and, you know, we figure this shit out and we make it work. Or option number 2 is you don't have to stay. You know, you can leave, but just understand that 1, I'm not chasing you down. I'm not begging you to be in my child's life, and I'm not going to put you on child support. I don't need to do those things. Like, I can take care of my child perfectly fine with or without you. However, if you do decide that you don't want to be in my child's life, you can't just randomly pop up and now all of a sudden you want to be in their life. That's not how this is going to work. Either you're gone and you stay gone, or you're present and you stay present. And when my child is old enough to form an opinion and have an idea of what they want to do, they can make that determination of if they want to have a relationship with you. But in those younger years, no, you're not going to be around my kid back and forth because you can't decide if you want to be their parent or not. So when we have this conversation, he's actually appalled. He's offended that I've even suggested that he doesn't have to be in our child's life. So he's like, I'm not that type of guy. I would never do that. I'm going to be present for my kid. I'm not just going to have a kid out here and they don't know who I am and I'm not involved with being their dad. Like, that's just not who I am. You know, this is not ideal. Like, obviously, I'm not ready to have a kid right now, but if this is what we're doing, then I'm gonna get myself ready and I'm gonna figure it out and make it work. So when we come to this conclusion, we also came to the conclusion that we will try to make our relationship work and actually be serious, because I don't feel like we were serious prior to. I think we were thinking about it, but we weren't to a level of being exclusive or genuinely dating each other to figure out if we would potentially be something. So things are going well at this point. So all this happens in December. We tell our families, things are moving right along. And the only thing that's really going on in this time frame between December and March is that it just seems like he is working a lot. Like, I'm seeing him, I'm talking to him pretty much on a daily basis. But it just seems like he's just not physically available. He's always like, oh, I have to work, or, I have to do this. Like, he's just not around. And he also was not coming to all the doctor's appointments. Like, I did have a lot of doctor's appointments, so I didn't expect him to be at everything. But looking back over the entire pregnancy, he probably came to like maybe 5 appointments. So nothing extreme happens, but in March we decide that we're going to have a gender reveal. So initially we were planning to have a traditional gender reveal and we were going to do a party. But for whatever reason, my parents who live out of state were not capable of coming in. So we ended up deciding to do it virtually. Now this is important because the gender reveal was going to be the first time that we met each other's families. And up until this point, I had not met his mom, any of his siblings, his dad. Like, I hadn't met any of his family. And the only person that he knew from my family was my cousin, who I told y'all was like, I need to take the pregnancy test. And that is because he had met her when we first dated back in 2014. So we end up not having this gender reveal party. We decide to do it virtually. So we were going to record a video. We hired a videographer. We were going to record a cute video or whatever. And our families would be able to log on to this website and watch us pop the balloon to see what the gender of our baby was. So as we're like heading to go to film the gender reveal, I distinctively remember this conversation. We were talking about the baby. We were talking about baby names and different things like that. And so one of the baby names that he was just like really, really stuck on was James. He liked James a lot. And also, what else did he like? So I had to think about it, but the other name that he really liked was King, which I didn't like either one of those names, and my baby wasn't named either one of those names. But anyway, he was very adamant about the 2 names that he really liked. Like, he was really pressing those 2 names. And he also was very adamant about the fact that he thought we were having a boy. He was like, I know it's going to be a boy. Like, he had a strong feeling that this was going to be a boy. Like, genuinely, it was almost like, okay, it's okay. Like, if it's not a boy, it's gonna be okay. But he was just really harping on the fact that he knew that it was going to be a boy.
He's missing doctor's appointments. I don't think that's a red flag. Like, what do you think?
I mean, it's both of their first kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe it's important to be at the doctor's visit. Like, he probably doesn't think that it's a big deal to her. And at the end of this, she's pretty much like, he wasn't there, and I do understand, but she still feels some type of way. So
Right.
She was probably giving him the same type of signals, like, oh, like, maybe she's not going to care. Like, she knows I'm out here doing what I need to do.
Right. And that's what I was thinking. Like, as a man, if you tell me it's okay, like, you don't have to go to all the appointments. You can just come to some. I'm going to come to some. And it's not like, it's different if he's just sitting at home and then not wanting to go to appointments. Mm-hmm. But if he's choosing to work over going to those appointments, I feel like women should have more grace towards a man, especially if it's his first time having a kid. He already said, like, I'm not ready to have a kid, but I'm going to get ready. He don't know what that means yet. He hasn't had a kid. So in his mind, let's just stack up the bread, and keep you happy. That's how men think. So, I mean, women might look at it as if like, we don't care because we not coming to the doctor's appointments. But in reality is like, he probably does really care. He just can't come to the doctor's appointment because he's prioritizing the money first now. We don't have a connection with the child until the child is here. You automatically have a connection with your child as soon as you start to hear the heartbeat or you start to feel that first kick, stuff like that, which is months before we even meet them, So I think women just don't understand like men mentality. But
yeah, if she would have stressed the importance, I think he would have probably stepped up in that way.
But what do you guys think? Do y'all feel like that's a red flag? Let us know in the comment section. There's no right or wrong answer to this, really.
Okay, part 6 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. Okay, so we have the gender reveal and we find out we are indeed having a boy. Now, in the moment, like, it was excitement, like super excited. He seemed to be super excited, over the moon, especially because he was so adamant about it being a boy. We put the video out, everybody is all excited, and it seems like things are coming together. So now April rolls around and I'm in the mindset of like, okay, I need to figure out our living arrangement, because I'm still living at home. And although my grandma wanted me to stay home with her and bring the baby home with her, I just didn't want to bombard her life with that, because a baby is a lot. And although she was happy to have us, I didn't want us to take over her home. So I talked with him and I'm like, hey, you know, what do you want to do? Like, we could either live together and then you can be like there and help me with the baby, or I can go out and get my own apartment and we figure it out from there, right? So we decided that we were going to rent a house together, and he was a tad bit hesitant. Like, initially he was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'll say he started getting hesitant about us moving in together when it came time to like pay the like sign the paperwork and pay the deposit and that type of thing. Like, I don't know if reality was kind of setting in for him, but he started to get a little like shaky at that point, it seemed like. Now, he didn't really tell me this. These are just cues that I'm going off of like his reactions and his responses. It just seemed like he was hesitant, but he did not say like, no, I don't want to do this or whatever. That's just what I was picking up on. So we move into this house or whatever, and he starts being like sketchy again. He would be there some days and then he wouldn't be there others, and he would say like, oh, I had to work, or I picked up extra shifts at work, or he would be like, I'm going, you know, to help my mom. So he was like, you know, my mom has my little sister and I help her, you know, with my little sister, you know, taking her to school and blah, 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 right? So he's like telling me that he's like doing stuff with his mom and his sisters, and that's why he's not really there. Now, this was frustrating to me because it was just like, what are you doing? Like, we are getting ready to have a baby and you are not here. Like, where are you? And so he was like, I'm just working a lot. I'm trying to stack this money up. I'm trying to like get prepared, blah, 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 blah. Red flag, but I'm young, I'm dumb, I'm naive, y'all. So also simultaneously as this is going on, I'm starting to plan the baby shower. And I still have not met his family at this stage in the game. So the baby shower was excitement for two different reasons. One, because obviously it's a baby shower. But two, because I'm finally going to be able to like meet his family and spend some time with them and really kind of dig deep. I always feel like you can tell a lot about a person based off of their family and how they interact with them. So, you know, I'm asking him to put together a list of names and addresses and all of that stuff so that we can get these invitations sent out. And he was just dragging his feet on it. And I was getting frustrated. Like, you know, the shower is in June. You playing. I need to get this stuff done. I need to have a head count of who is coming, and that type of thing, right? So he tells me that like, hey, you know, my mom said that if you just got the invitations printed up for her, she will go ahead and get them sent out to my side of the family, so you don't have to worry about it and you don't have to pay for the postage or anything like that. I can, you know, get them to her. So I was like, well, I can drop them off after I put everything in the envelopes. And he was like, oh, no, you know, like very insistent. She would do all of that, you know, for me and put all the labels and all that stuff on there for me. So I said, okay. And I gave him the invitations that were designated for his family. So I sent out my own invitations, and his side of the family invitations he took with them so that his mom could send those out. Meet me at the next part. Part 7 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So baby shower invitations are out. I'm getting, you know, calls and RSVPs coming back and forth of who all is coming. Okay. My number was on there for RSVPs, but also his number was on there for RSVPs. And so he was reporting back saying that he was getting RSVPs. So I'm like, okay, cool. So it's looking good. I'm like, good. His family, his friends are coming, whatever. Like, we will be able to kind of bring this group together for the good and the better of the baby. So baby shower rolls around and my parents drive in from out of state. And they generally would have flew in, but they drove in because my parents had bought my son a bedroom set. So this was around the time that Babies R Us was closing, and so my mom was finding good deals. So she bought my son a crib, a dresser, a rocking chair. She bought everything for the baby's room, okay? But the issue was, because Babies R Us was closing, she only could find it where she lived at. And so she ended up having to drive it all down. So they had like rented a trailer. My dad had a pickup truck, so they put everything in the pickup truck and in the trailer, and they drove it down. And when they got there, they wanted my baby daddy to help get all the stuff out of the unloaded and get it upstairs into the house. Now, if you know anything about that Babies R Us furniture back in the day, it was a very good furniture. Like, it was very heavy and very sturdy. Like, my son still has his bedroom set 7 years later. So this stuff was really heavy. And at the time when they came, it was literally my mom, my two sisters, my brother, and my dad. And my brother was young. My brother probably was like 13 or 14 at this time. So he wasn't really like strong enough to really help get this furniture into the house. So they were expecting this man to come and help bring the furniture in. So I'm calling him because he was not there. He wasn't at the house when they got there. Calling. He's not answering. He finally answers, and he's like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't able to answer. My grandmother passed away. We didn't know that she had passed away. She lived by herself. And my mom and them went over there because they hadn't heard from her, and they found her dead. So he like, we're dealing with all of this. Like, I'm just so sorry. Like, I had my phone, down because I'm trying to like manage my mom. Like, this is just my family right now is in shambles over my grandmother. So initially I was very frustrated. Like, initially I was getting ready to go off on him, but because he told me that his grandmother died and this was this extreme circumstance, like, obviously I have empathy, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, don't even worry about it. We will figure this situation out. So I don't even remember how, but some way, somehow, the furniture got put upstairs, and my parents had left to go get settled in at my grandma's house because the shower was going to be, it was either the next day or the following day, but the shower was like in the next couple of days. So he comes home later on that day, and he's just like, you could visibly see that he is just really upset about his grandmother passing away. And I'm like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Like, is there anything that I can do? And he's like, no, I'm okay. He's like, but I don't know if my family's gonna, come to the shower because they, like, everybody's trying to deal with this huge issue, okay? And so I'm understanding to that, and I'm like, okay, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it is a big deal in my head, but I'm like, I can understand that. Like, I'm so sorry, right? Part 8 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So we're dealing with the death of his grandmother, and he's basically told me that, like, his family is probably just not gonna make it. Like, they've got a lot on their plate right now. And of course I'm understanding to that, and I go and tell my parents and my mom and them that, like, this death has happened. Okay, so on the day of the baby shower, we're at the house, we're getting dressed, getting ready to go. Everybody's over at the venue setting things up, and him and I are going to ride to the baby shower together. So we're getting ourselves together, that type of thing. And my mom had came to the house to get like some of the food for the shower, and so she meets him or whatever, and my dad is there. My dad meets him, and they're like, we are so sorry to hear about your grandmother. Like, oh my gosh, that's so tragic, blase splill, and he's sad. Like, you can see that he's sad. He looks sad. Like, he's just not social, that type of thing. Like, he looks like he doesn't want to be at this, but obligation as far as, like, this is my baby shower. So we have our baby shower. Nobody from his family comes. Not his mom, not an aunt, not an uncle, not a nobody. Nobody comes to the shower. It's all my family. It's all my friends, whatever. This does ding a red flag for me, but at the same time, I have so much going on that I don't even have time to really think about this and really process this, okay? I don't know. I don't know where my brain was at that time, but I do remember thinking like nobody came, like not even one fucking person couldn't come and show their support for my baby. But I just was like, you know what, whatever. Some families are weird like that and they're not supportive people. Is how I just relayed that to myself in my head. So after this happens, you know, things start to pretty much get back to normal. So maybe about 2.5 weeks after the shower, the death of his grandmother, I get a phone call from him. Now it's during the work day, so I'm at home for whatever reason. I might have been on bed rest at that point. But I'm at home and he's at work, and he calls me and he says, hey, can you pick me up from work? Which this is odd because he has a car. He drove himself to work. So I'm like, is everything okay? Like, did something happen with your car? And he's like, I just need you to pick me up. So he sounded kind of like panicked or whatever on the phone. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I'm on my way. So I go and I pick him up from the job. Okay. He gets in a car and I'm just like, what's the matter? Like, what's going on? And he's just like, I don't know. Like, I just need to go home. Like, I feel like I'm having a panic attack, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, well, have you had a panic attack before? Like, you know, I don't really know how to handle this situation. And he like, I just need to go home and lay down. Like, I just got a lot going on. Like, I just need to go home. So I'm like, okay. And so he's like, and my phone is not working. Like, I don't know what's going on with it, but my phone's not working. So I'm like, okay. So we're driving and he's like, can I see your phone? I really need to call my mom. But my phone is not working, so I need to use yours. Okay, cool, whatever. So he calls his mom, and I can't remember if he talked to her or if she answered or what, but I know that he dialed her number from my phone. That's important, and you need that. So we get to the house, and I mean, he is just pacing. Like, there is something really, really wrong with him. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, my mind is racing a mile a fucking minute, and I'm pregnant at this point. I'm at 8 months right now. So I'm like, I can't deal with the stress. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you like about to murder us? Like, there's a million things happening in my head because I've never seen him act this way before, and I'm getting scared. So I'm like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? He's like, I'm fine. Just leave me be. Like, I just need a minute. So I don't know what to do. And I am getting scared because I've seen people like have mental breakdowns and shit like that, and they be doing crazy stuff. So I'm like, what? Hold on a minute. Let me figure out what to do in this situation. Come back for part 9 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. Okay, so he's having this like panic attack or a breakdown. I don't really know what to call it. And I'm getting scared. So I decide I'm going to go upstairs and just remove myself from this situation. So I go upstairs and I go into the bedroom and I lock the door. And the reason I locked the door was it wasn't like he was doing anything like aggressive to make me scared, but I work in healthcare. I've seen people have mental breakdowns and stuff like that. And I just needed to protect myself and protect my baby if he were to like go on some type of like rampage. So because I'm panicking, I call my cousin. Now this is not the cousin that told me to take the pregnancy test. This is a different cousin. So I call her and she basically is like, okay, you need to stay where you are and I'm dropping what I'm doing and I'm coming to you right now. And she also was like, you know, call his mom back since he used your phone. Like, call her back. Maybe she know what's going on. Maybe you could get an answer from her and figure out how to like get him to calm down. So this makes me feel better for 2 reasons. One, it makes me feel better because she's on her way and I'm not there by myself, and like I know that I have the security of her being there. This also makes me feel better because she can carry, if you know what I mean. So if he did get the getting, we good, you know, because I don't know what's happening. So I call his mom back. I called the number that he called a few times and nobody was answering. So I called it like 2 times and there was no answer. So I hang up and I leave her a voicemail and I called her a third time. Now, this third time, she picks up. So she picks up and I'm like, hi, how are you? This is Jasmine, such and such's girlfriend. And he's having some type of meltdown or panic attack and I don't really know what to do. So she says, well, tell me what happened. Where is he? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm telling her he's downstairs. He called me to pick him up from work saying that he felt like he was like having a panic attack. I really don't know what to do. And I'm like, and I'm 8 months pregnant and I can't really deal with this right now. So as we're talking on the phone, there's a lot going on in her background. Like it sounds like there's kids crying and other people talking. So she says, can you repeat that? And I said, yes, I'm 8 months pregnant and he's freaking out and I really can't deal with this stress right now. Like I'm on bed rest and I don't really know what to do. So she says, you're 8 months pregnant? I'm like, girl, yeah, didn't you just get the damn invitation for the baby shower? Like, yes, I'm 8 months pregnant. And so she says, by such and such? Bitch, yes. Why do you think I'm calling you? Yes, by such and such. So she says, okay, honey, let me call you back. And she hangs up. So now it registers in my brain, this woman did not know that I was pregnant. She don't know nothing about me at this point. She don't know that I exist, okay? So now I'm even more freaked out because what do you mean I'm 8 months pregnant and yo mama don't know I'm fucking 8 months pregnant? So I get off the phone with her and I call my cousin who's on her way and I tell her what's going on. And she like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know what to do. So she said, let's go to his mama house. So I'm like, I don't know where she live at. And she like, well, do you like have any idea how we could figure out where she live at? Cause he probably not gonna tell you where she live at if he ain't even told her that you exist and that you pregnant. So now my thinking cap is on. Now I'm hyper focused and I need to figure this shit out immediately. So I distinctively remembered that when we were moving into this house, I had to send over to our realtor our IDs, like copy pictures of front and back of our ID. And on his ID, the address was different from the address that the bando was at. Okay, it wasn't the bando address on his license, it was a different address. So I said, there's a different address on this license. Maybe this is his mama house. Like, that's not uncommon. I had my license registered to my grandma's house for years. So she like, okay, I'm on my way. I'm going to pick you up and we're going to head to his mama house. Come back for part 10.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not see that coming.
I kind of figured when he was like, oh, like, I'll just take the baby shower invitations and my mom's going to pass it out to everybody. I don't think he told nobody on his side of the family.
Damn, did grandma really die?
If she didn't, that is a wild excuse.
Oh my goodness. She never said she saw the bitch. I'm not gonna even talk about that situation. That's crazy, because what if she did pass away? And he just used that though? As an excuse?
But think about how convenient that is to a story. Like, nobody on my side of the family is going to pass away. And it's a big deal when grandma passes away. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is affected. So he was probably like, this is the only thing I can say to make it make sense why no one in my family is showing up. Because no one showed up. Who's not showing up to the baby shower for meatballs? Like,
right. And for your own family members' first child. You feel me? Like, you gonna show up. It's kind of making me feel like mama know he got another kid or something like that.
Mama know he living a double life.
They typically act like this when you have multiple children. Then it's like, you probably ain't gonna have nobody pop up at that fifth child's, baby shower. But for the first child, like, come on now. Unless you come in a big family and they already got a bunch of grandkids, who ain't showing up to their child's first baby shower?
My
if
thing
you got
is,
a relationship with each other.
I wonder if his mother is probably like judgmental. Like they said when she first got pregnant, they weren't serious. They were unserious, and now she's pregnant. Now she's deciding to keep it. So imagine how like someone older would think about it. Like,
right, like you never brought this woman up, and now you're telling me that she's pregnant.
I've never even met. Like, mom never even met the woman.
I was gonna talk about his mental attack that he was having. I was just saying that it's probably like. It's common, more common than women think when you first have a child. Mm-hmm. Like, you get overwhelmed. You 8 months pregnant, And it's like a lot of stuff is just caving in on him right now. I'm not saying that he's a good person or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying like the thought process of possibly why he probably was having a mental breakdown was probably because the weight of everything that was about to unfold. Like you on your last trimester right now. And it's like, you know what I mean? Maybe work is not going good and the money ain't coming in. He ain't got as much saved as he thought. So he probably just freaking out in that aspect. But to not tell your mom now, it's like, dang, dude, is you freaking out because of financial reasons or are you freaking out because you realizing the reality of what's about to happen? And it's like, you got somebody else that you got to tell this to.
How can you hide a baby? It's one thing to hide a pregnancy, but now you're about to hide that you actually have a baby here.
Right. Yeah, it's about to get wicked.
Baby, y'all is on my head, okay? But this is part 10 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So at this point, my cousin is heading my way to pick me up. And at this very moment, I start to lock in. Like, I mean, my brain is running through every single moment, scenario, everything, because I'm really confused. Like, why would you not tell your mom this? Like, one, we're grown, so who cares if we're having a baby or not? And two, like, why are you just lying? Like you're legitimately just lying to be lying at this point, okay? So I'm the type of person that when something traumatic happens to me, I process things very differently. Like, you know, some people crash out. I don't crash out. I stop, I get quiet, and I really start thinking, like getting in my head, trying to figure out the situation. So I don't tell him that I now know his mom was not aware that I was pregnant. And I also don't tell him that I'm getting ready to go to this address on his license. Instead, I go down and I tell him, oh, I'm getting ready to go run some errands. I'll be back later on. At this point, he's calmed down. So he's like, okay. So my cousin pulls up and we're headed to this address. And I am not as irate as I think I should have been. I think I was just still really processing everything. And I was just kind of like, we need to figure this out. Now, I want to take a brief pause because I had a comment that was like, why didn't I want to, you know, make it more important that I met his family? And here is why I think I wasn't so pressed about meeting his family is because I have a very strong support system. And I really feel like a lot of it was that it was kind of like, who cares if you got a family or not? Because my family gonna take care of it. Like, we gonna be straight. I don't really need, like, I don't know. I think I really hyped myself up to believe that, like, it don't matter. I don't know why, but I just was in that mindset. Another thing I believe is because I was not in love with this man. Like, it wasn't like this was the love of my life and we had been dating and, you know, it was just circumstances happened and now we're trying to figure out this life, you know? So I also think I wasn't pressed to meet his family because the only people I've ever brought around my family were people that I genuinely loved and saw a future with. And the only reason he met my family was because I was pregnant. If I wasn't pregnant and we weren't having a baby, my family would have never known that that man existed. So anyway, we are on our way headed to this location and I am just reeling, like really trying to figure out what's going on. Like, why would he lie about something like that? Me and my cousin is just kind of talking things through, seeing if we could come up with some answers. And we finally pull up to the house. Now, the house is around the corner from the bando. Legit around the corner from the bando. Like, it's probably 2, maybe 3 blocks over from the bando, but in the same vicinity. So it's close. Okay. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this is it. You know, this is the mom's house because we so close to the fixer-upper. So my cousin, like, you wait in the car, I'ma go knock. So she goes to knock on the door. And this is a 2-family flat. I don't know if other cities call it a 2-family flat, but it's like where there's an apartment on the lower part of the house and then there's a full apartment on the upper part of the house, right? So my cousin goes and she's knocking and she's standing waiting for somebody to answer. So as she's standing there waiting for somebody to answer, a car pulls up. So a truck pulls into the driveway and a girl gets out of the car. So my cousin, the girl gets out of the car. My cousin turns to her and the girl says, are you trying to get somebody's attention in the house? And she said, yeah. And the girl was like, well, they live upstairs, so you're not gonna be able to hear, she not gonna be able to hear you knocking. I can call her and tell her that you're down here. Who should I say is down here for her? So my cousin says, well, can you tell her that is such and such is baby mama? See y'all at part 11. Part 11 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So I don't hear this exchange between my cousin and the girl that pulls up. So they're talking for a second. I don't know what they're talking about because I'm in the car and the windows are rolled up. So my cousin comes to the car, right? And she opens my door. And so I'm like, what? So she like, Jazz, get out. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I'm like, okay, but why? And she's like, but I need you to get out and I need you to remain calm, okay? Like, and when I tell y'all, like, I could see in her face that something was wrong, and the way that she was talking to me, because me and my cousins, like, we talk to each other like, bitch, come on, you know what I mean? She was so calm, and she was just like, Jazz, I need you to get out of the car. I need you to be calm, okay? Like, I can't afford for you to go into labor. Now, I've told y'all that I had a lot of doctor's appointments because I had a lot of complications with my pregnancy. I had a lot of bad swelling and there was just a lot of things going on. So my cousin is very hyper vigilant to this, that I'm supposed to be on bed rest and I should not be having this amount of stress on me right now. So when she says that, like, I get scared. So I'm like, okay. So I get out of the car and the girl that she was talking to is like standing over on the sidewalk and we parked off to the side. So I'm getting out of the car and I had on this long, like, just flowy sundress or whatever. So I get out of the car and my dress kind of like falls over my stomach and the girl sees my baby belly and she immediately just starts freaking out. She starts crying profusely, like just freaking out. And so I'm confused and I'm like, Lee, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Sorry, y'all. That started bringing back real emotion there, so I had to take me a little break. But anyway, the girl says, well, I'm such and such is baby mom. And the world paused. Like, legitimately, everything in my head, everything in my mind went completely fucking silent. Like, I could not hear anything at that moment, like, that those words came out of her mouth, because I'm under the impression he don't have no kids and this is his first child, just like it's my first child. So now at this point, I am a very strong person. I don't like to show people my emotions, especially people I don't know. So I wasn't crying or anything like that because I don't know this girl, first of all, and I'm not about to show you any signs of like weakness. That is just how I'm built. I've been this way my entire life. Like, unless I trust you, I'm not showing no form of emotion or weakness to you. So the girl and I start talking or whatever. She's like crying and stuff. And she goes, are you the girl who live over in such and such? So she says the city that I was living in when I lived at home. And I said, yeah. And she said, I had his location for a while and I would see him going back and forth to this location, but I did not know why he was going there. But I assumed it was because he was cheating on me. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, okay, so y'all are like still together? And she says, yeah, like we're still together. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and how old is y'all baby? Y'all, the baby is fucking 6 months old. The baby is 6 months old, y'all. So, the baby is 6 months old, damn it. I'm so... This just made me so mad. Recapping this baby is 6 months old. This is June. She had this damn baby in December.
Well, I guess we got the answer to my first question, whether or not he was cheating or not. But jeez, oh Pete, another baby? No wonder.
Yeah, you know somebody got someone else when they missing all the major holidays. Like, it's like when the side chick don't get Valentine's, she get the day after. Like, oh my God.
I'm starting to definitely get the mother's point of view now. No wonder her mother wasn't like, congratulations and oh my goodness and happy. She was irritated with him because he just had a baby prior. That's why he didn't invite nobody, because he was super embarrassed. He tried to get her to get rid of her baby because he knew he had a baby, not because he wasn't ready to be a father.
You know what I was thinking too, when he asked her to pick her up from the job, I'm like, somebody else had their name on that car and they came and took that car. Like, he had a joint car with somebody. And who else would sign off on a car with you?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Wow. Now, I'm not going to lie, it took a while for us to get to this point, but I'm happy that we stuck it through because, man, this is getting actually insane.
My question is, how long did he think he was going to keep up this lie? If you already have another kid, you didn't want them to, like, be siblings or something? Like, what was the plan with this?
I'm not trying to be a father.
Yeah, I'm not ready to be a dad right now. You are a dad. Hello.
Right. If she would have known that in the beginning, I don't think she would have had that conversation with her who'd she say she talked to?
Her aunt.
I don't think she would have had that conversation with her aunt. I think she would have just, went to that appointment.
Yeah, they're both pregnant at the same time. I could see some years in between, but you just had a baby. Like, we were both pregnant at the same time. That changes the whole narrative.
That's some wicked business, Messy family. That is some wicked business. Let's check out these final parts and see how did this end up.
So this is part 12 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. Now, I want to let y'all know that I have a very busy day today. I'm a wedding planner and I'm on my way to said wedding. So this may be my last post of the day about this because I just got a hectic day, but I'm uploading these like as I go. So maybe y'all might get another one or y'all might not, but y'all just got to bear with me. So at this point, I am just, all cylinders are clicking for me. My brain is like in hyper load, like it's in overload right now. It is running through all of the lies between the time that I met him again through now, because her baby was born in December. Remember, I told y'all in December, 2 weeks prior to Christmas, he was acting real shady, like he fell off. This is why he fell off, because he was at the birth of her baby. She was getting ready to go into labor or whatever. So he was being a part of her child's birth and all of that. That's why he had went MIA during that time in Christmas. Now, after she says all of this and like she's trying to pull herself together, the mom had like opened the door for her. So she went in and the mom just kind of was like, give me a second. So mom goes into the house and they were in there for probably like 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the girl comes out. She didn't bring out her baby, which is why she said that she was there, was to pick the baby up. But she comes out with no baby and she leaves. And I'm assuming it was because she was just so distraught that she couldn't take the baby with her. So the mama comes out and we're standing outside and we're talking to his mom at this point. So the mama come out, she introduced herself, I introduced myself, and I basically tell her like, I'm 8 months pregnant, I'm having a boy, I sent invitations for, my baby shower, and, I'm so sorry that like your mom passed away and that y'all couldn't make it to my baby shower. So I tell her this and her face, like her eyes just get big at me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm sorry for your loss. Like he told me that your mom passed and I can completely understand that this is probably just an added stressor to you. This lady looked me dead in my retinas, dead in my eyeballs, and said, my mother is alive and well. my mother is in the house sitting on the couch. Now, at this point, I look at Leah, that's my cousin, and she looks at me. And we both just exchange this look of just absolute terror. Of like, who the fuck is this man? You just lied to over probably about 100 people and told them that your grandmother died. And that's why your family was not at this baby shower. You killed off your grandma. This woman was alive and well, like breathing, living in the house, holding his baby that he just had, that's 6 months old. So the mom is kind of like, you know what, do y'all have a little bit of time? Like, can y'all come in and talk to my mom and kind of tell her like what's going on? Because she's flabbergasted, I'm flabbergasted, Leah's flabbergasted. We're all just sitting here just baffled, okay? So I go in and I meet the grandmother. The baby's there. This clearly his baby. Looks just like him. And I sit down and I'm trying to piece together all of the lies that have accumulated from the time that I met him up until this very moment. Now, some of the lies that I'm capable of putting together are, one, that the house that he said he was fixing up is not his house. It's actually his mom's house that she is fixing up, okay? And he was not supposed to be living there, okay? But that was one of the lies that I kind of got out of this conversation with the mom and the grandma. I also get out of the conversation that he's not coming to her house to help with his sister. He's coming to the house because he's there to take care of this baby, okay? And I also find out that the baby is a boy, so I'm assuming like, okay, that's probably why he was just so adamant that we were gonna have a boy. I also just find out that he is not only lied about me. The girl that was outside, they didn't know about her, and they didn't know about her baby until her baby shower. And the way that they found out about her baby shower was she hand delivered her invitation to the house. And that's how his mama and them found out about her and found out about her baby. So this is part 13 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So at this point, Leah and I have probably been at this mom's house for like 2 hours. Like it was a long time, and I'm starting to get tired. Like I'm just emotionally, I'm mentally, I'm physically tired. I just was ready to be done. Although they were very helpful and they were very nice, and you know, they wanted to know more about me. They wanted to know, you know, did I need anything and that type of thing. I just didn't want to talk to them anymore. Like I wanted to go home and I wanted to talk to my parents. So because we had just really been sitting there talking and stuff like that, I had not looked at my phone since we went into the house. And I pulled my phone out and I have 30 like missed calls. I've got like 40 text messages, and of course they are all from him. Now, I'm assuming that the girl called him when she left, and that is why he's now on my line, because she's told him that I'm here and I'm talking to his mom. And when I tell y'all, like, the messages, there were voice notes, there were voicemails. He was calling like, don't do this, don't talk to my mom, like, just come back here, like, we can figure it out, we can talk about this, blah, 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 blah. But mind y'all, he's stuck at my house because he left his car at the job. So he don't have no car, he don't have no way to get to his mom's house, and initially his phone wasn't working, so I'm assuming he must have like got his phone together, but he don't have no way to like interject with me having these conversations with his family. So I am not ready to have a form of a conversation with him right now. So I'm just ignoring the calls and looking at the messages and the voice notes, like just listening to them, but I've not communicated with him. So, I exchange contact information with the mom and all that stuff. And me and Leah go to leave. Now, we get into the car and it was very like somber because I feel like Lee did not know what to say to me. And I also feel like she was angry and I was obviously angry. But it was almost like we were driving to like a funeral or something. Like it was just so just gloomy. So as we're heading back to my house, I call my parents, and my parents were actually on vacation. They were out of the country, so we had to FaceTime. We couldn't talk on the regular phone, which made things a lot worse. It's one thing like when you're on the phone with somebody, it's another thing when you're face to face with them and you're recapping something traumatic. So I have not like shed a tear at this point. And that is just kind of how I am. Like when something traumatic happens to me, like I don't cry initially. Like I work through the emotion and then that's when the tears come. Like after everything is over with is usually when I will cry. So as I'm kind of telling my parents what's going on, like obviously they're mad. Like my dad is ready to jump through the phone. So they are like, do you want us to leave the trip and we can come there? Like what do you want us to do? Like how can we basically support you? And so for me at the moment, I did not want them to come because my mom had already scheduled to spend like I think 4 or 5 weeks with me, a few weeks prior to me having the baby, and then a few weeks after I had the baby. And I really knew at that moment, I knew I was going to need her because I knew I was going to be a single mom. Like there was no working this out with him, there was no figuring it out. And hell, at this point, I didn't even want him around my child. So I really wanted to reserve that time off for her to be with me when I genuinely needed her physically here. So after I kind of talked to them, we're here. We've arrived at my house, but we're just kind of sitting outside for a second because I just wanted to go. I honestly just wanted to get on a flight and go home. Okay, my parents lived in New Jersey and I grew up, most of my childhood was there. So I wanted to go home to Jersey. That was my safe place. That was my comfort. And not being able to do that and going through something like this was hard. And so I needed a minute before going in to confront him because I've never been through anything like this before and I didn't know how my emotions were going to present themselves. Part 14 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So at this point, Leah and I have pulled up at my house and it's kind of time for me to basically go in and face this person. And like I mentioned in the last video, I really needed to calm down for a second because this was just so much happening at one time. So I end up going in and he was just like begging and pleading and I'm so sorry and blah blah blah, like just sorry, sorry, sorry. And to me it was just like it's just a sorry ass nigga. That's the best way I can describe it. A sorry ass nigga. So at this point I'm like, get the fuck on. I don't want to talk. I don't need an explanation. I don't Get the fuck out of my house. Like don't You can't get a trash bag full of shit. You can't do nothing. Just get the fuck out. Is basically where I was. It was just like, what is there to talk about? Like everything that you say at this point is a lie. So get the fuck on. So he leaves and initially he was like, I don't have a way to go to my mom's, blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't care, walk. I don't give a fuck. You better get on a bus, call an Uber. I don't know, hitch a fucking ride. Hell, maybe they'll drop you in a ditch. Like I don't know, but you can't be here, you have to go. So he ends up leaving, and throughout the next couple of weeks, like he is actively like trying to get into contact with me, trying to reach out to me, but I am not responding to him at all. Like I'm just opening the messages and closing them. Like there was nothing to say. I had nothing to say. I didn't want to hear anything that he had to say either. So, I just completely cut him off for a little bit. So it was probably like maybe a week that I did not talk to him. And in that week, I had a lot of doctor's appointments scheduled because of the fact that we were almost to my due date. So this is probably mid-July and I was due August 13th. So we're getting real close, and I had a lot of doctor's appointments happening. So I go to the doctor's appointment. The first one that I had was probably like a few days, like maybe a day or two after all of this transpired. And I got a test done, and my doctor was alarmed. So she gave me a different test for stress. Now, when we got the results back from the stress test, she was like, you have got to sit down. She's like, you are causing all of the stress that you have on your body. You're causing the baby to have these cardiac events, and it can harm him, and it could also potentially harm you. So when she tells me this, she also says, you don't need to be alone. Like, you need to have somebody with you 24/7 so that if you do go into labor or start having complications, you can get to the hospital as quickly as possible. So at this point, my mom is still not scheduled to come stay with me until the very beginning of August. And so ultimately, I had to communicate with him because one, the life of our child was, coming. And although I didn't want to talk to him, it wasn't about me. It was about my son. And although he had done all of this, he still was very adamant that he wanted to be in my son's life. And I would never deny my child that. I'm just not that type of person. So although I hated this man, I also wanted him to be a part of this, because in the future, if my son looked back and said, where was my dad at my birth or whatever, I wanted to be able to say he was present. So because I can't be by myself and we're now like just communicating on baby stuff, I'm like, listen, I need somebody to be here with me 24/7. Like, can you come stay here and get on the couch? Like, and I was very clear with him, like, this is only because of what is going on health wise. It has nothing to do with you and I on a personal level. At this point, this is just a business transaction to me. Part 15 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. So at this point, he comes to stay with me while I am basically on bed rest until I can give birth or until my mom comes into town. Now, the arrangement was that he would sleep downstairs. We had like a den area down there, like a additional room. So he was sleeping in there, and then he only had to come upstairs into my space to use the shower because there was no shower on the first floor. So at this stage, like, we're really not communicating with one another, and I am still trying to figure out like who this person is, what was the cause of all of this. Like, I'm still invested in why. Like, I want to know more. So one day I go into the bathroom and he left his Apple Watch in the bathroom and he was gone for the day. He had went off to work or something like that, and it was just me at the house during the day. My grandma would come frequently, but like for the good portion of the day, I was at home alone. So he leaves his Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch was connected to his phone. So I wasn't getting the text messages to the Apple Watch because the phone wasn't close enough to it. But I could go back into the old history of text messages and see what apps and that type of thing were on this Apple Watch. So I'm digging through the Apple Watch, and I am just like, the Apple Watch is basically his phone. There is a treasure trove of just stuff in this Apple Watch. So in the Apple Watch, I find one that he does have like some form of a gambling problem, and that is why he was having these bursts of like just blowing money, and he always had these comps for the casino. I also found that he was on a lot of dating sites. So I couldn't read the messages from the dating sites, but I could see that it was sending notifications about the dating sites, that he was getting messages or whatever. I also saw that he was texting copious amounts of other women. Like, there were tons. There were just numbers and no names saved to them, just numbers and messages. Now, the only names that were saved in this phone were my name, the girl who I had met, her name, and then there was another girl in there who was saved. Now, the other girl who was saved in there, I read through their messages. And when I went through their messages, like, they obviously had a relationship going on, but there wasn't a lot. Like, it wasn't very detailed in the messages. So what I did see in the messages was that he was having the first girl who was saved, the baby mama, he was having their baby around this girl, because I seen some pictures of him. They must have been at dinner or something, and he was at the table holding the baby, and they were dressed up. So the girl must have been the one taking the picture. So as I'm doing this deep dive, I'm also like documenting everything. So I'm putting all of this information into my phone. I'm putting the names that were saved in my phone outside of mine, which was the other two girls. I was putting in their like just notes, like you know, some of the stuff that I saw in the messages. I typed in the dating sites that he was using so that I could go back and like research this stuff. Another thing that I found that was very like alarming in this Apple Watch was that some of the numbers he was texting, I could tell that they were all women, but they were calling him a completely different name. Like, it was not his name. It wasn't a version of his name. It wasn't a nickname. Like, they were calling him a completely different name.
So, whole time he had another baby. We already knew that. So he was actually in another relationship while he was in a relationship with two women that were possibly pregnant.
That is so trifling, to have another woman's baby that you're supposed to be dating at the time around another female. I couldn't even fathom the thought. Like, this baby's what, 6 months old? Like, did you even try to be a family if that's what you were presenting to the first baby mama? What blows my mind is the fact that he's like, you know, I'm just trying to get some money. Whole time, he's just spending money on all these other females. Like, you're not trying to get money for this new life we're about to bring into the world. You're out spending your money gambling and on females. Yeah, that's what would make me even more mad. This whole time I'm thinking you're trying to do something beneficial.
That explains the mental breakdown that he was having. I thought it was because he was just having a first child on the way. And then I thought, when I heard about the second child, maybe it was just because he had two children. Now I'm starting to believe that maybe the mental breakdown that he was experiencing when she was 8 months pregnant had to do with losing a lot of money. What are your thoughts so far, Messy Family? We are almost to the end.
Part 16 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So after I get out of this Apple Watch, it's time for me to kind of like lock in and investigate a lot of this stuff. And one of the first things that I was going to investigate was this girl that he had been texting, this new girl that, you know, he's got pictures back and forth with him and his baby with her. So I start investigating her, and I find her on social media. And, you know, a few things that I know about her is, one, her birthday is also in October. So that kind of tracks. It's very close to mine. And so I was like, that kind of tracked why he was kind of like dodgy around my birthday, because he was probably celebrating her birthday with her. And also I noted where she lived at. She lived very far from where I lived. So that too was something that I noted, because I'm like, okay, that's probably like why he wasn't you know, coming home and stuff like that, because he was like across the world. So he probably was like dealing with her and then didn't feel like taking the drive to come all the way back. So after this, like maybe a night or two later, I still don't say anything because I'm still in investigation mode. I was asleep, like in a dead sleep, okay? And it probably was like 2 or 3 a.m. And I don't know, I'm chalking it to God, okay? I literally just woke up out of my sleep, and it was like something in my brain started clicking fucking pieces together. Like, I literally rose up out of my sleep like a dead body and was like, fuck no. I go downstairs and I'm like, nigga, get the fuck up right now. Like, get the fuck up. There were like some work boots at my front door that I picked up, and I just chucked them bitches at him. He was asleep. I'm like, get the fuck up. Get the fuck up right fucking now. So he wake up out of his sleep and he like, what's going on? And I'm like, you're a fucking liar. And he's like, what are you talking about? Da, 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 da. I'm like, don't fucking play with me. Don't fucking bullshit me. You have another baby. And it's not that baby that I seen at your mama house. So he's like, what are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, shut the fuck up and tell the truth. For once in your fucking sorry ass life, tell me the truth. So he's like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? Like, it's just, you know, whatever this baby, I don't know what to call him, name is. No, I don't. Now, the reason that I'm accusing him of having another baby is because what happened was back in June or May, when I was making my baby registry, I searched his name because I was trying to make sure that it was set up. And there was another couple with his same exact name and the name of the girl that he was texting with the pictures of him and the baby at the dinner table. Okay? It was her first and last name and his first and last name. Now, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, okay, you know, somebody got his same name. But it also was registered to the same city that she had listed on her Facebook, and also the same city of receipts I had found when I went through his stuff when he wasn't there, when I first told him to get out. There were receipts for baby formula and bottles and stuff like that in that same exact city. The other reason I am accusing him of this is because I sent myself that picture that was exchanged between him and her in these messages, and I started really looking closely at this baby. Now, I only seen you know, the baby at the mom's house very briefly, like for 2 hours, but I wasn't really like intently looking at him. But I just didn't think that this was the same baby. They looked a lot alike, like same colors, some of the same features, but I just didn't think that that was the same baby. So part 17 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So after we have this exchange, it's the very beginning of August, and because I've told him to just go, my mom just ended up coming a few days early, because she was already scheduled to come stay with me right before I had the baby and after I had the baby. So I'm also in communications with his mom now, and because of this, I tell her that I think, you know, that there's another baby. So she asked me to send her the picture. I send it over. She analyzes the picture and she says no, that she doesn't think that this is another child. She's like, no, that's the baby that they already know about. So at this point, I'm like, okay, you know, I feel like there's some piece here. Like, okay, at least that piece of it is like tied up. Now, back to him having multiple profiles on dating apps. Well, what he was doing was he had profiles with his real name on there, but he also had alternative profiles with this fake name. Okay, I don't know what he was doing with that. I don't know if that was like his alter ego. Like, I have no idea. I just know that he had these fake profiles and he was like talking to women with the fake profiles. And I don't know what the purpose of it was. So after I've uncovered all this, I've looped my parents into this, and, you know, my mom is up to date on what's going on. So it comes to my due date, and my son was born on his due date. So the morning of my son's birth, I had been back and forth to the hospital like 3 times, and they kept sending me home like the days leading up to his birth, and they were saying to me like, you know, you're not ready yet, you know, but I was like having a lot of pains. So, but they were like, no, you're fine. So on the day, I had a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, but when I was starting to get ready for the appointment, I kept having to change my pants, and my mom was like, girl, your water broke. I was just thinking I was like having an accident, because like I always envision like my water breaking being like a movie. So my mom is like, girl, no. So I call the doctor's office and they like, forget our appointment, just go straight to triage. I get to triage, they like, yep, your water's broken, we're gonna admit you, and then we're gonna start giving you like some Pitocin or whatever to kind of speed things along, basically. So at this point, I notify him what is going on. I also notify his mom and his family or whatever, as well as my family too, that like I'm going into labor. So he comes up to the hospital and, he's just in there. Like, we're not talking to him. My family's not talking to him. I want y'all to note this about my grandma, who I said I didn't really want to burden with all of this. My grandma has no filter and she don't care. So my grandma was not having it. My grandma was at the hospital. She didn't want to talk to him. She didn't want to talk to his family. Like, my grandma was like, burned, all of y'all. Like, I don't care. So as I'm in the hospital or whatever, I had a very, very complicated birth. They tried to let me labor. I labored for like 14 hours or something like that. And my son just was not coming. They were having a hard time like getting his heart rate. They would catch it, then they wouldn't. So I ended up having to have a C-section. And when they asked who I wanted to be in the C-section room with me, I said my mom. Like, he was there, he was at the hospital, but I didn't want him being in there. Like, I didn't want his support. Like, you're here so that you can see your baby, but I don't need you in the room with me while they're cutting me open. Like, if something happens to me, I don't want you in here. I want my mom. So we have the baby, everything is fine, and I have to stay a few days in the hospital because my son was under birth weight and I had lost a lot of blood. So they just really wanted to keep us a couple of extra days for monitoring. Part 18 of how I dated a habitual liar, and it drastically changed my life. So at this point, we're staying in the hospital these few days, and he's staying with us the first couple of days, but my mom is also there too. And so my mom, like, initially she was being very cordial. Like, you could tell she was irritated with him and she didn't want to talk to him. She didn't want to associate with him, but you could also tell that she like was just trying for the fact that we were all here. So I guess it just got to a point that my mom was just like, I need to say something. So my mom confronts him and she is basically just like, what's tea? Like, what is going on? Like, why are you doing this? What was your purpose, basically? And she asked him, like, dead in his face, like, my mom is the sweetest woman in the world, but when it comes to her kids, she don't play. And she was very direct with him, and she was very like, if you have anything else that you need to say, that you need to tell her, you need to do it right now. This is your opportunity. The floor is yours to basically come clean about anything else that you feel is necessary to come clean about. So he's basically being apologetic or whatever, and he's like, I don't have anything else that I need to tell her. Like, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. And my mom is basically just like, I need you to understand that regardless of this situation, like, my child is going to be perfectly fine. And one of the main things was that because we did not know why he was doing it, we didn't know if he was like trying to knock me down a peg. We didn't know if he was just like getting off on this. Like, we didn't know what the intention was, because there was no need to lie. There was no need to lie. What did he think he was gonna get a whooping? Like, there was no need to drag this out. He could have told me from Jump Street that like he had a baby on the way, and he could have allowed me to make the decision of if I wanted to deal with him or not. But for you to create all of these elaborate lies, like, what was your purpose? So he's like, no, I don't have anything, blah, blah, blah. So we leave from the hospital. And while we were in the hospital, I was so out of it from having surgery and having a newborn that I really was not like on my phone and stuff. The time that I could sleep, I was sleeping. And when I was up, I was trying to like bond with the baby and learn how to breastfeed and all that other great stuff. So a few days after we get back, I finally have a moment to just kind of go through my phone and stuff. Because, I mean, I was having visitors, like, you know, my friends, my family, like, everybody wanted to see the baby. So, you know, of course, those couple days home from the hospital, people were just coming in and out. And I know a lot of people don't want people to come see their fresh baby, but I needed the distraction because otherwise I was going to be in my head about this whole situation. So I finally take some time to kind of go through my phone and stuff, and the girl messaged me back. So I'm like, okay, cool, great. So we exchange contact information, and I call her, and sure enough, she confirms that they do have a baby together. And at this point in time, her baby is like 6 months, 5 or 6 months at this point. So she confirms for me that the baby in those photos from when they were at dinner is her baby. It's not baby number 1. So there is a whole second child. Now, what I gather from her is that her baby was born in February. So baby number 1 is born in December. Baby number 2 is born in February. And that is why I was having such a hard time distinguishing that this was a different baby, because they both were basically newborns, and they just kind of had some of the very same similar features, and I'm assuming that's probably why his mom thought the same thing. Now, this girl also is kind of telling me that he's been back and forth to her house. So now I know he's been back and forth to her house, the first baby mama, and my house. So that's why he's not around or available, is because he's jumping from place to place to place to take care of his multiple fucking families. She also tells me that he did not attend her baby shower, and he told her that his family was uninterested in her baby. Like, they didn't like her, or for whatever reason, she said she never met them or anything, but he told her that his family was not supportive, and that's why they were not at anything for her child. Part 19 of how I dated a habitual liar and it drastically changed my life. This is the final part. So after talking to her and confirming all of the suspicions that I had, I called him. And I didn't even tell him I talked to her. I just wanted to get his responses. So I'm like, I'm going to give you one more chance to tell me, is this baby in these photographs a different baby? And of course, he lies about it. And at that point, like, I just went off. I just blacked out and was just like going off, because I was just so frustrated that, like, you are still fucking lying. You're caught and you're still holding strong to the fucking lie. Like, why? So at this point, I'm like, you know what? You don't get to just be a fucking liar with no consequence. So I call his mom. And initially she kind of pissed me off because she was almost in like some denial. And I'm like, girl, I just talked to the woman. She just told me that this is her fucking baby. Like, don't be dense, okay? So I gave both of them each other's contact information so that they could talk or whatever and figure all that shit out. Now, he is sending me this long fucking text message about how it was not my place to, tell his mom and, tell the other girl all of this information. And I'm basically just like, I hope that your life falls to fucking shambles at this point, because you've drastically changed the course of my life because you are a fucking liar, because you couldn't have just been honest. Like, I wouldn't even have been talking to you had I known that you had a baby on the way. let alone 2 on the way. Like, that was just, it was no point. There was no point of you lying. You could have just been honest. So that is basically it. Like, at this point, I know what it is. I've exposed him for who he was to his family and, to these other 2 girls. And it was time for me to heal from the situation and move on.
Imagine ending one year with 0 kids and walking into the very next year with 3 children.
I see why he was having them mental breakdowns.
And 3 baby mamas. I would have had a mental breakdown too. It's almost like he can't control himself or something. Like, dude, like, you're literally getting all of these women pregnant. As a man, you gotta be able to take accountability for that, dude. You had multiple opportunities to step forth and just tell the truth. Now, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I understand why you didn't in that moment, because everybody already hates your ass, and it's like, the last thing you wanna do is sit here and tell in front of mama and Gramps that it's another baby. That's the last thing you want to do. So I understand why you didn't admit it right then and there. But bro, she really came back to you again. If a woman ever, let me tell y'all something. If a woman ever doubles back on your ass and asks you a question that they already asked and you thought that we was over, and they ask you again, that's automatically they got some new information. All right. So if it's true, just come forward at this point. Like, you know what? You was pregnant. You just got done with the baby. I ain't want to stress you out. Could have been a better lie or something. But to say nothing and to get caught again, brother. Jesus.
The way he just has a list of lies to why his family is not participating in any of these women's pregnancies is crazy. Like, he got a different lie for each woman.
Prayers to the kids. At the end of the day, like, it's funny, but at the same time, those kids are about to go through so much dealing with somebody like that, a father, a role model like that. So I really hope at the end that he end up getting himself together, because yes, he's a terrible boyfriend, but hopefully he can turn out to be a great father to these children that he created. Step up, be a man, and be there for your children, because they're gonna grow up and not understand none of this shit. And it's your job to at least make them feel like not a burden. If you guys want to follow the creator for more updates to see pretty much if he is gonna step up, or if he did step up and become a better person, make sure you guys follow her. Her name will be linked in the description box below. But Messy family, other than that, that's all of the story times that we have for today. So we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.